Hi, this is Sean Murphy of SK Murphy. Welcome to the Thursday, February 9th webinar from PATCA. Our topic today is a consultant a leader? And we're fortunate to have Perry West as a speaker. Perry is the founder and president of Automated Vision Systems, a leading consulting firm in the field of machine vision. He has over 40 years of experience in machine vision. This experience includes system design and development, software development of both general purpose and application-specific software packages, optical engineering for both lighting and imaging, camera and interface design, education and training, manufacturing management, engineering management, and marketing studies. He received his BSEE from the University of California at Berkeley, is a past president of the Machine Vision Association of SME, received the MVA SME Chairman's Award for 1990, and received the Automated Image Association's Annual Achievement Award for 2003. Perry, welcome.
Thank you, Sean, and welcome everybody. And we'll get started here about a leader. Now, a presenter is, as I am told, supposed to make a promise at the beginning. So the question posed, is a consultant a leader, or maybe should a consultant be a leader? And I promise you, by the end of this presentation, I will not answer this question. What I'm going to do is open it up as a discussion and let you decide if you should be a leader. Some of you will decide, yes, you should be a leader. I think, Connor, you said that was what you did in your consulting work. Other people I know are like, no, I never want to be a leader in any circumstances, although life may thrust them there. And some of you will say, well, maybe sometimes I can and sometimes I couldn't be, but I'm going to present some concepts here. So as I started to prepare this, I looked in my library and I found that I've read 21 books on leadership. Now, if reading a book was enough, then all of us would be billionaires with sculpted bodies that would be the envy of Hollywood A-listers. So I'm not claiming to have read a book and therefore be the world's expert. I actually, in doing the preparation, found the 22nd book, a real classic, Dale Carnegie's
Win friends and influence
Win
people.
Friends and Influence People. Thank you. I was looking at my bookshelf here and can't read it. Another classic book on leadership, 83 years ago, still is very current today. So leadership is nothing at all new. So why, as a consultant, do you care? Well, there's some advantages. You have more impact in your work. And if you're a leader, you're going to be dealing with people higher up in the organization. And the higher you go in the organization, the higher rate that you can command. If you're dealing with a CEO who thinks nothing of spending, hiring a lawyer at $600 to $900 an hour, you can charge quite a bit. If you're going to go with a first level manager and he's getting a little nervous at $125, $150 an hour, you can see where your earning potential could change. Disadvantage, it requires you take on responsibility and risk, an increased level. And it also requires a longer engagement. You can't come in 3 or 4 days, be the leader, accomplish everything, and go away. So some people prefer to consult in shorter engagements. I'll let you decide how you fit in this. Quote I like from Peter Drucker, basically, in any organization, it's pretty much chaotic until somebody provides leadership. Leadership is essential. That's not saying everybody has to be a leader, as we were talking about, but leadership must be there. Definitions of leadership. This is one I don't like because it's too wordy and you can read it. I'm not going to go through it because you'll never remember it. So let's talk about something. And let me tell a family story, then I'm going to have you annotate some things here. It's a sad story, really, but it does about leadership, and it goes back to the 1950s. And my family has roots in a little community in the Santa Cruz Mountains called Swanton. Most people have never heard of it. But in winter in 1950, probably around 55, it was rainy, far more than we've seen this year. And people there scattered around the mountains were worried about getting access to their homes, being able to get out and so forth with the floods and slides and trees falling down. So they all came down to a house owned by my aunt and uncle. And it was considered relatively safe, that access would be in and out would be assured. During the night, the side of a hill caved in and blocked a stream, a creek. And the creek backed up and finally it broke through and there was a deluge of mud and water and boulders as big as cars that came tumbling down, smashing into the house. An uncle of mine, who was the youngest adult there, was running to get out. The other people saw him and they chose to follow him. And he got out, he managed to lead them out and they got to safe ground, and everybody other than the aunt of mine who got swept away survived. Now, let me give you the rest of the story. My uncle said that later on, he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know where he was going, but he was running right to a wall. And as he arrived at the wall, it fell down and that let him out, and all the people that followed him got out. So if you look at an organization and you're looking for leaders, how can you identify leaders? So let's take a moment and go up your screen there at the top where you will see annotate, and then you will see text. And write your thoughts on the whiteboard here as how can you identify a leader? Put people first, leaders eat last, okay? Yeah.
So for those of you that haven't done it before, there is underneath the top, the green bar in your Zoom screen, there's a view options button, and underneath view options, there is an annotate option that will allow you to draw or type text in to Perry's diagram here. If that's too much, then type it in the chat and I will transfer it to the whiteboard. Somebody trying to say something?
Okay, I guess not. So we're going to move on because time is limited here.
There we are. Provides inspiration and guidance.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to share with you what Peter Drucker says. The only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. You can be brilliant, you can be right, but if nobody is following you, you're not a leader. In my, let's stop annotation here. Stop it, okay. In the case of my uncle, it wasn't because he was brilliant, it wasn't because he was right. It was because he had followers, and very fortuitously, they got out and most of the people were saved. So one of the things that we want to talk about is leadership and management. It's very, very much in vogue now to write a book on management and call it a book on leadership. And as Jackie pointed out in our discussion, management is different than leaders. Management is about resources, schedules, policies and procedures being followed. Leadership is about people and getting people to do things. So they are different. There is an overlap. Managers can be leaders, leaders can be managers, but a manager can be a great manager without providing leadership. And some leaders can be very effective at leadership without really being able to provide much management. For example, Mahatma Gandhi led his country to independence from British rule. He's actually not a very popular person. He walked around outside in his underwear. As an attorney, he didn't do well, but he provided the leadership at the time it was needed. And the rest is history. Here's another definition of leadership: the capacity to translate vision into reality. We're going to come in and talk a little bit about this because it's really core, in my opinion, to leadership. And in the classic business that I read all the time, people talk about having a mission and then a vision. And yeah, I think this is wonderful, but that's like saying this is what we're going to do and that's where we're going to end up. I would prefer rather that people reverse that and decide where they want to go and then figure the vision and then talk about the mission, how you're going to get there. And in today's business world, what we're seeing is vision. We're also having a purpose. Some companies, businesses will have a purpose, not a vision. Others will have both. Some will have a vision and not a purpose. It doesn't matter, but the key is here, the vision or purpose has to be something that can inspire people. The leader can use that to inspire people. The mission is more about how we're going to, the broad statement of how it's going to be done, and then there are strategies and tactics below that. Yeah, we have somebody that had something to say? No? Okay.
I think we're getting bleed through, but I can't tell who it is.
Yeah, okay. Basically, the people see this as the means to a better future. However, it's better. And that's the key for things. So in an organization, who owns the vision or purpose? The thought is it starts at the top and goes down. And there's truth to that. If the top doesn't buy into it, it doesn't go down. I have a client, a Chinese client, and the CEO periodically goes off by himself to a resort in the mountains and spends a week or so thinking about things, and he comes down with a stone tablets and he says, here it is. And then he asked me once, why aren't my people doing things? Why aren't they doing what I want them to do? Of course, he didn't involve them, and that's, not necessarily inspiration. Here's the key thing. The organization has to have a vision or purpose that inspires. It doesn't have to originate with the person at the top. The person at the top just has to see that it's there and use it to provide leadership. There may be some very enlightened subordinate that can really see something and yeah, that's what we want to do. Okay, now the person at the top has to be able to propagate that excitement and interest down. If you're a consultant and you come in and you have your own vision vision or purpose, and you want to integrate it into the organization, that's probably going to be very difficult, because that means you have to inspire everyone. You can come in and look at a department or a team and maybe provide the vision and mission or purpose rather for that team and inspire the team. So that might be more appropriate for a consultant. Styles of leadership that we get into. The hero, that's the person that flies in with the cape and in just a blur of activities, gets everything right, salutes, hands his invoice, and then he leaps off to the next assignment. Okay, not going to work too well. The hero model really doesn't work well. So we have other models. Command and control. This is what the military likes. Authoritarian. And there are times that this is the right approach, and then there are times that it's really the wrong approach. Many times it's used by people when it shouldn't be used. We have the facilitatory model. This is where basically we call it now the servant leader. And the idea is people are going in the right direction, get out of the way and just make sure they have what they need. And that does work, but it's very much in vogue right now. Unfortunately, it's so much in vogue that we list the motivational leader to inspire and excite, and keep people inspired and keep them excited so that they perform and produce. Now, there are times on all three methods are useful. If the building is on fire, I recommend command and control for leadership. It's not time to sit down and talk about, well, what should we do? And this sort of thing. It basically takes action and takes leadership of that style. Sometimes motivational leadership is good. And then you do have to get out of the way and stand aside and just continue to encourage people. But you have to make sure they stay motivated. So in a team, where does the leader sit? Well, authoritarian, command and control. Think of Teddy Roosevelt and the charge up San Juan Hill. Men, we need to take the hill, go for it. And the men jumped on their horses and they charged up, their bullets flying. Teddy got in his horse and he trotted up the hill behind them. He knew better. He'd taken a bullet, he wouldn't have become president. So command and control is one way. That's the way the military typically does it. You can be behind them. You can be beside them. This is kind of the servant leadership, facilitating, encouraging. You can be in the group sometimes as a colleague. You have to be. This is advantageous because you could facilitate very good communication. You get a lot more information. However, you're seen as one of the team, one of the colleagues, and it may dilute the leadership potential. Or you can be out in front of the group, leading the way, showing them the vision and the purpose and moving them forward. Your choice, and it may be different times you have different positions. Part of the secret of leadership is knowing where to be when. And another quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. You can inspire people to have confidence in you, or you can inspire people to have confidence in themselves. And the latter is really terrific. Make people believe that they can achieve something, and they probably will. And they follow you because you have authority. They have to follow you. You sign the paychecks. They follow you because you like you. Hey, you're just a nice person. I'm gonna hang out with you and do that. They follow you because you have a good track record. You perform. They're going to hang on to your coattails because they're hoping that you'll take them along and on the journey. Or they follow you because you make them better. You help them grow. Or best of all, who you are as a person, the qualities you are, and what you represent. So notice they don't have to like you, but they have to admire you. And that's much better. What do followers expect from a leader? You're going to be a leader. What do they expect? Well, they're going to expect a vision or purpose they can support. They're going to need to perceive the ability to succeed. Now, basically, if it's a trivial accomplishment, you're not going to be a very inspiring leader. You're going to ask them to do the impossible. You're not going to be an inspiring leader. You have to have a bahag, a big, hairy, audacious goal, but something that is in reach. Think of John Kennedy when he sat up there and he said, our goal will be to put a man on the moon and bring him back safely in 10 years. Something about that statement was really good. It was very succinct. It was very clear what the objective was. It was inspiring, like this is something humanity has wanted to do for a long time. And it was tough, but it was probably doable. It might be doable. People said, yeah, we're going to do that. we're going to work on that. Okay. And you have to be able to influence people when you don't necessarily have the authority. You got to get the work done. The people are going to expect you to get the work done. So make it possible. And if you can inspire people, you're going to get help from areas outside of your own team. There's 4 dimensions of leadership. This comes from a book by James Scullier, which is the 3 levels of leadership, but basically the motivating purpose or vision. What is it that they want to do? And the tasks that are going to give the progress and the results, and watching those. You can't take your eye off the compass, off the road. You've got to look at the group and hold the team together as a unit so that they're working together, but you also have to pay attention to each individual. The people have to feel that not only are they part of something good, but they themselves are important. So here's a progression of leadership. This is come from a book, and I don't remember which one it was, but I thought it was very, very wise. If you're going to be a leader, the first thing you have to do is lead yourself. If you can't lead yourself, people will begin to sense that you're not authentic and you're not going to be very effective as a leader. Then you have to be able to lead one other person. And finally, you have to work up to where you can now lead a group, a team, a department, an enterprise. You can grow. But it all starts with being able to lead yourself. So when you think about leadership, think about how does it apply to you? How are you leading yourself? And as you lead yourself, some things you need to have is a self-awareness. You have to be aware of your character traits. You're going to reflect on yourself and reflect about those traits. And then you're going to self-regulate. You're going to decide, okay, what are your strengths? What are you going to do with them? Where could you improve? What are you going to do to improve? And where are you just not going to be good? And you're not going to try to be good. You're not going to try to be all things to all people. We'll kind of come back and touch on that in a little bit. So here are some concepts. Okay, you can take responsibility for the work. That's good, but that's not what a leader should do. A leader should take responsibility for the outcome. At the end of the day, what's the benefit? Where's the bang? You can hustle for your worth. That sounds like something consultants do all the time, right? Basically, know your value. Carl teaches about new consultants about setting their rates. And of course, you can set your rates based on your minimum level of survival, what you could earn if you were an employee, what your competitors are charging, or if you want to earn the most possible money, you know your value to the organization and make them aware of your value. You can lead for compliance and control, make sure everything is done right, and policies and procedures. Or you can actually cultivate the commitment and a shared purpose so people will get the job done. You could collect gold stars, attaboys and whatnot. Better off to give out gold stars. Give recognition to people and so forth. So there's some concepts, just to, ways that you can do things. So a couple things that are really important in leadership. First of all, it's not about you. It's about the outcomes and the people you lead and how well that goes about. Okay, the other concept that's equally important is it's all about you. It's about the abilities you have to lead and get your team to have really succeed and excel. That means you have to have that self-awareness. You have to know where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, what you're going to do in the areas where you're not strong. So there's one book I read, I don't remember which one it is, maybe I can think of it, but it had 34 qualities of a leadership. And this is a list, not from that book, but compiled from others. And there's a lot of them, and there are probably more. I'm going to point out just 2 that I think are significant in my view. And first is respect over there in the right-hand column. And respect, you have to earn the respect of your team. If they don't respect you, they don't have to like you, but they have to respect you. You have to respect the people on the team and treat them with respect, even when you have to do the hard things. The second thing I want to point out, it comes in every single book on leadership, is communication skills. And the first is listening. Not only listening to what the people are saying, but understand why are they saying it? What is their motivation for presenting this message? That is probably more important to them than the message. When you speak, you have to be able to get to the core. It can't be just a slogan, but it can't be wordy. And you have to have clarity to the message. That means, shortening it. Just like John Kennedy said, our goal is to put a man on the moon and bring him back safely within 10 years. It's a very clear statement of what needed to be done. And the third thing in communication is one I got out of Harvard Business Review here a few months ago when they talked about support group. They said, when a person brings a challenge or problem in, do not give advice, which is what everybody does in support groups. They said, use stories. So rather than tell the person, oh, you should do this, tell the person, when I was in this situation like this, and I did thus and so, and this is how it worked out. And, you might think about that. It's much better way to communicate by using stories. Human beings are wired to like stories. Proclamations, not so much. Okay, here's the thing, 34 characteristics of a leader, give or take, whatever. You don't have to be all things to all people to be a leader, to be an effective leader. You have to know what you're good at and what you're going to get better at. And then you have to find out those other characteristics. How are they going to be handled? What are you going to do? You can delegate that. You can find people within the group that do it. Now, I will tell you, as a leader, you should be the motivator. You should be the person that is kind of providing the emotional fuel for people to get on board. You can't really delegate that. You can't delegate all the leadership responsibility to other people and call yourself a leader. But your main purpose as a leader is to make sure there is leadership. I don't know where this quote comes from, but basically, if you don't want followers that need you, otherwise you've got a bunch of dependents. You can create followers that want to follow you, and better, create followers who themselves can be leaders and support you in that task of leadership. Things that can defeat a leader. Number one on my list is culture. Culture can defeat, you can be right, but if the company's enterprise or organization's culture doesn't accept your ideas as a leader, you're pretty much doomed. And to change culture is a long process. An edict doesn't change culture. People may modify their behavior until the edict goes away and they'll slip right back into culture. It takes years to modify an organization's culture. So if you have a culture mismatch, as a consultant, you probably have to say, wait a minute, don't know what I can accomplish. Character traits, your character traits. If you're not a likable person, it's going to be difficult. People don't want to be around you. It's going to be difficult. Inflated ego, people don't want to carry you. If you have unrealistic expectations, if you think that people are interchangeable and you can take somebody from accounting and assign them to do sales, they're probably going to feel uncomfortable. Now, in an emergency, maybe they have to step in and do the best they can, but not really. Just because you know a lot doesn't mean that people are going to follow you. It's not about what you know as much as about what you're able to accomplish with people. And if you try to exceed your available power, you're going to step on toes, you're going to rub people the wrong way, and people are going to push back. So not only do you have to lead your team, but you also have to be able to motivate people around you so that you don't have to usurp their power, that they will share a bit with you. And some leadership tactics. Go for the small yes. A lot of people try to jump to the big end result and get everybody to commit to going the whole distance and everything. Don't do that. Just ask people, let's take a step or two. You know, once they'll take a step or so, they're more likely to take another step, and then another and another. Pretty soon they're on the journey with you. Give praise, okay, genuine praise. When people do things well, tell them so. When you communicate, don't make the mistake Ross Perot did when he ran for president with a lot of logic and graphs and charts, because that'll just turn people off. You know, appeal to their emotions, you know, the heart, appeal to their intuition, the gut. You know, they'll do that. Choose the right seat at the table, depending on the circumstances. We all know this, and this is physically the right seat. End of the table is the power position. Facing the door is the power position. The back to the door is the weaker position. Being in the middle of the side of the table is a position of somewhat influence. Being at the end of the table, away from the person in power, is the weakest spot. And don't waste time, you know, just doing unnecessary things. If there's nothing demanding, that's the time to lead by walking around. I didn't say manage by walking around, but lead by walking around. Touch base with people, communicate with people. See if you see what they're doing, see what their problems and challenges are, what you can do to help them. And this book just came from a YouTube video, but basically is be scared, a 60% expectation of success. And I would say 60% is fine in R&D. In manufacturing, where that I work in a lot, where the products going down the production line equate to cash flow, and you say, 60% will be okay, 40%, everything's going to stop. Like, you're going to stop cash flow? No, I don't think so. So that expectation of success has to fit the circumstances. And as a leader, people are going to oppose you. It's going to happen. Maybe people in your team, it may be people outside the team. And you're going to have to deal with that. Do not get involved with vengeance. Don't put your energy into that. Let it slough off your back and go forward. Winston Churchill was famous for this. He would screw up, or he would displease somebody. They would call him into the office, and he would stand there while they got chewed out. He'd walk out of the office, shrug his shoulders, and go right on forward, like nothing had happened. Your body language has to show and inspire people. We'll talk, you know, other people have talked about that, and we've talked about communication skills. So now we're going to open it up to discussions and questions, and I actually kept it shorter than I thought, so we should be in pretty good shape. So let's open it up, Sean, to anybody that wants to chime in with opinions, discussions, or whatever.
Yeah, I had just two to kick off. You had a slide earlier on where you talked about some of the hallmarks of leadership, and two were to influence without authority and to provide vision. And those struck me as requirements for successful consulting engagements. So I think you're answering the question in the positive for consultants or consultants leaders.
Oh, that's, well, in a sense. Now that goes back to leading yourself. Okay, I don't think you can be a successful consultant if you can't lead yourself. That
Right,
means
but influence without authority clearly applies to others, right? If you don't have control of yourself, you got a problem.
Well, that's true. And you do have to be able to influence without authority. You go into a client, you don't have, they don't bring the consultant in. Well, they do in some cases. They'll bring them in as the interim director or interim CXO or whatever it is and assign them authority. But a lot of us go into assignments to work on, on something particular. We're not being really given the authority. We make recommendations, suggestions, and do things for people, but we don't have the authority. We have to learn to be effective without necessarily having the authority to say, this is what's going to be done.
I've got a question, just something to think about. So imagine you're a consultant, you get invited to an organization, you've talked to one person, maybe more, but someone invited you in and they bring you in for the first day to kind of meet the team, some people you'd be working with, just what are some thoughts on those first introductions, conversations, what might be helpful there?
Well, that goes back to learning as much as you can about the culture of the organization. Now, as you probably know, that culture is kind of a nebulous thing. The best definition I have found is it's shared values, shared experiences, and shared rituals. Now, what values are shared in the organization? Individuals have their own values, but what are they sharing? What is the common set of values? What experiences have they had together common? You're coming in, you don't know what their experiences are. They have no experience with you, so you don't quite fit in there. And rituals can be anything that they do on a regular basis. Gathering at the water cooler during coffee break would be a ritual that might be in business. Things that they do habitually that they just think of like it's kind of normal and that's the way we do it. Those are rituals, and they may be good or bad. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is what is the culture of the business, and try to find out as much as you can. I had a client up in Canada. I went and visited, and I was dealing with a woman who was at the director level in this company. And I said, as we were getting settled, I said, by the way, what is your company's vision and mission? And she thought, she said, I don't remember. I know we have it. I just can't remember what they are. Okay. That was a big red flag. And of course, the other thing that was humorous to me was that there was a plaque in every room of that building with the vision and mission statement on it. Okay. Somebody thought that basically coming up with a statement, sticking it on the wall was enough. So it wasn't used. So try to understand what your company's vision and mission are, or your client's vision and mission are, and how this fits into their big picture. So you do as much research as you can. If I'm coming into the first meeting like that, and it's really the purpose is to get acquainted with me, I will probably sit in the middle of one of the sides of the table. So I'm here, I'm here to provide influence and so forth. I'm not taking the power seat, but I do want to appear like I've got something to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some thoughts that come to mind.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
I added a link in the chat to the HBR story about telling stories in a peer group.
Okay.
And I think we will break here. Thanks everybody for coming. And Perry, thanks very much for a very thought-provoking talk. This was really good.
It's been great. I'm really happy to have been able to provide it.
Thanks, Perry.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. See
Okay.
you later.
Okay. Take care.